guys, it's Kaz here, and today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in February. So yeah, let's just dive straight in. So first of all, I read all 4 volumes of Our Dreams at Dusk by Yukoi Kamatani. I read this one physically because I own it, and then the other 3 I read electronically online. And yeah, this was a reread, and I'm so glad I went back to this story because it was just so good. I think I cried at 2 of them. It was just so good. So this is a manga, and it's about this communal space that these people have been building, and people can go there and just feel like they fit in. And it's just all about different people, a lot of them part of the LGBTQ plus community, and it's just so good. The artwork is pretty self-explanatory because it's a manga, so here's an example. But yeah, it follows the main character, Tasuku, who just stumbles across this place, and then throughout the 4 volumes it's just different people at this place. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It was just so good, and I'm so glad I managed to find it because I read this first one a few years ago and really enjoyed it, but it gets even better. It gets better and better. So yeah, I was so glad to read this series and finish it. It's also a series that I finished now, which is also a bonus because I have so many ongoing. So yes, win-win. After that, I read After Love by Tanya Byrne. Another book I thoroughly enjoyed. A very good start to the month. But yeah, this is like sort of fantasy-ish. Well, it is because it's about reapers, the people that are dead, but also fits very much into like a contemporary vibe, a contemporary setting, just with that sprinkled in as well. So basically it's about Ash, and she dies. It's not a spoiler, it's sort of the point. At some point she dies, and then she becomes a reaper, and she's still in the town that she's living in, but people can't see her, people don't know that she's there. But there's also this girl Poppy, who is her girlfriend. At the beginning of the story we do have them getting to know each other, like meeting and then getting to know each other more. Like, you don't know when it's gonna come, when the death's gonna come, and then it does come and you're like, no! But also, people are not meant to notice who she is, but then at one point Poppy does notice, and that's a bad thing. But also a good thing because they get together and they're interacting and stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It was just, I loved the characters, I loved everything together, the whole vibe. It was just very good, and I'm so glad I finally read it because I have owned this for a few years. The whole way that the Reaper things was done was really interesting as well. So like, they just got a post-it note, go to this place, this is the person you're reaping, they're about to be dead. And the way that was done was really interesting and different, and yeah, I just very much enjoyed it. After that, I got an arc of Daniel Deconstructed by James Ramos, so I read it in February, imagine that. This one I thought was alright. I think I gave it like a 3 or 3.5. There were some issues with it. So basically it's about Daniel and just him going about his life, but also his best friend Mona. He feels like she needs somebody in her life, in a love life, and wants to provide that for her. So meets this new person, Gabe, and is trying to get them together, but then also feels like the feelings for Gabe are there for him as well. So my issue with this is, first of all, an issue that I have with many books that talk about photography. Just do your research. If you're going to have a character that has an interest, make sure you know what you're talking about, you know what I mean? So for example, at the beginning of this book, Daniel's talking about how he only uses film cameras because it's super cool and edgy and it's different, oh, film, and like specifically calls out a specific film make, like this make, this model. He's autistic, so it's like, it feels like they're trying to be like, oh look, he knows all this stuff about cameras, he doesn't want to talk to people about it because people don't want to hear you talking about your specific things you enjoy, but look, he knows all of the information about it. But then like throughout the whole rest of the book, it keeps talking about looking at the back screen, showing people the pictures, going on his computer, looking through. I'm like, you can't do that with film cameras. Maybe he's got 2 cameras, but like at no point until right at the end of the book did it mention like specifically him using a film camera. Like right towards the end, there's a part of it that happens in the room that is processing film, and I'm like, bro, you've not actually shot any film this whole book. You've been talking about showing people, oh look, this is the picture I just took on the back screen. Bearing in mind this specific name camera model that he mentioned, first of all, it's a film camera, so obviously you can't do that, and second of all, it doesn't have a screen on the back. Some film cameras kind of do, so you can see it when you're taking the picture, but you can't flick through because that's not how film works. So yeah, that annoyed me. It happens so often. I feel like every time. Last time I read a book about photography, one of the characters said, oh, this camera was passed down from my great granddad from this point in time, and like specifically mentioned a year that before cameras were invented and before Kodak was even a company, and like that was just stupid. So this is not as bad as that, but, and also it's an ARC, so it might have been like rectified somewhere. But yeah, that annoys me. It's like, just don't say that you're using a film camera if you're gonna have your character use it as if it's a digital camera, because that's not how it works. But anyway, so that one thing annoyed me. But also I just didn't connect to the characters as much. I almost said cameras, you see, I'm just obsessed. But I didn't really connect to the characters in their storyline. Like, there were so many little different things, but I wanted more of certain things. So for example, they LARP in here, live action role play, and like I wanted more of that. They didn't give me enough. Like, give me that, that's interesting. Or obviously they did the camera stuff, give me more of that, or give me it correctly, you know what I mean? It just felt like there was too many little things, and you could have tried to zone in on certain aspects and talk about them more and give us more information. It would have been really fun to see more of the LARPing because it was interesting, but there's like 2 chapters about it and then like not really anything else. So it just felt a little bit wishy-washy for me. I felt like it could have zoned in more on specific things. It could have zoned in more about the characterizations of the characters and the relationships of the characters and stuff like that. So yeah, it was alright, but not the best. We're about halfway through, so let's head on over to a message from one of the spawns, and then I'll be back with the rest of the books.
True colors. Up first, Maya Iman LaPierre. All right, Heather, here's something else for you. Red is my favorite color because it screams sexy, it makes me feel like a slut. Baby, I'm giving you application.
So after that, I read volume 4 of The Unwritten. This one is called Leviathan. This one, I enjoyed it, but it is my least favourite so far of this series, specifically because a lot of it takes place on a boat in like Moby Dick. Actually in Moby Dick, because this is all about stories and being able to go into stories and magic and all this stuff. And a lot of it was written like in the oldie-timey words, and I just wasn't enjoying it as much because all of the characters were talking like that. So yeah, it's my least favourite so far, but I still enjoyed it. It's still moving the story along, it's still progressing. So let me just give you an example. So here he is on a boat doing stuff. But yeah, all of the bits on the boat, first of all, the like font of it was a bit weird, so it was harder to read. And then there was just like loads of oldie-timey ways it was said. But yeah, other than that, it was a good time. It was moving the story forward. I know more stuff. Stuff's still all over the shop, but I know a bit more stuff. So yeah, basically this is about Tommy, and his father wrote this story about a boy wizard, not that one, a better one. And the boy wizard is called Tommy and he's called Tom. So there's like this whole thing, oh, you are that kid, but he's a grown man. But then it's all about magic and stories and words can be like used to create things and do stuff, and there's people after him, and there's this big like secret thing going on. So there's a lot of stuff happening. So yes, although this wasn't my favourite in the series, I still enjoyed it and I'm still carrying it on, of course. After that, I read Swimming to Freedom by Robbie Michaels. This one is a contemporary about this dude. Am I in focus? Probably not, but I am now. Yeah, it's about this guy who really loves swimming, but then his dad gets on his back about it and wants him to become an Olympic swimmer. So then he starts not liking swimming so much because it's all about like, do this, get better, you're shit, you need to be better, you need to work, you need to always be swimming, you're not allowed a social life, you're not allowed to go out, you're not allowed a phone, you're not allowed the internet, you're not allowed anything else. So it's very that, like, not gonna lie, his dad's a little bit of a like mustachy villain because he's just like constantly just berating him all the time. But then on the back it mentions that his dad finds out he's gay. First of all, he doesn't like find out, he tells his dad he's gay because he gets a little bit more confidence, he meets some people, he gets friends, like secretly. But I put some tabs in here, so I don't know if you can tell, but this is where he finds out he's gay. This book is, let me just have a look. This book is 164 pages long, and he finds out he's gay at like page 100, and that's in the synopsis. So like, you already know what's going to happen. And what else is in the synopsis is it says that he ends up getting kicked out and he ends up being under a bridge. So the being under the bridge bit, so first of all, the kicked out bit is here, I think. Let me just get this. So page 113 is kicked out now. He's not kicked out, he left because his dad's a dickhead. 113, how many pages was there again? 164, I think. Living under a bridge, what page was that? 122 out of 164 pages. Like, the synopsis told me everything that was going to happen in this book before it happened. So why have you given me all that information? Like, it literally says, and he finds, oh, there's torrential storms and threatening to wash away his future. So then, like, you know that there's going to be a torrential storm. So like, here's why the storm happens. It's like, you've told me the whole synopsis. Why? But also, it was alright, but it wasn't the best. Even if I didn't know that stuff. Like, if I didn't know that stuff, at least I could have been like, oh, no way. Something I wasn't expecting. Look, he's woken up and the river's got higher. But, like, it literally tells me on the back when that happens. So there's no, like, suspense there. So I'm just reading this book and I just know what happens the whole way through. So, yeah, it was alright. I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, that's it, pretty much. His dad was a knobhead. I knew that from the back already. There was a river. I knew that from the back. There was a storm. I already knew. You know what I mean? It was alright. After that, I read 12 Bones by Rosie Talbot. This is the sequel and final book in the 16 Souls duology. Is that what it's called? Does it have a name? I don't know. But the first book was 16 Souls anyway. So yeah, this one, when I first started it, I felt like it was getting into it was quite slow. It did that thing that happens in series sometimes where like the first 5 or 6 chapters is just going over everything that's already happened in the first book, and I'm like, bro, I know I've already read that. That's why I'm reading the sequel. So that was a little bit like tedious at the beginning. Got, oh, here's a character, and then we did this stuff, and then that happened. Oh no, here's what happened, and that happened. I'm like, bro, if books want to do that, they should just do what Adrian Tchaikovsky did with the Shadows of the App series, and just like the first page of the book just have here's what happened previously, like you do on TV shows, and then get in the story. I don't need 5 chapters of you reminding me because I already remember. But yeah, after that, really enjoyed it. Like, stuff was happening, stuff was kicking off. So basically in the first book, it's about this guy, let me look at the back because I'm terrible with names, Charlie, and he had a very near-death experience as a child from meningitis, and then when he became alive again, he can see ghosts, and it's in York, so it's really cool because York is very ghosty. There's a very ghosty vibe in York. Like I mentioned when I reviewed the first book, all of the ghosts in the book are like famous ghosts in York. So if you've ever been to York, if you ever know anything about York and the ghosts, like the name drop and you'll be like, bro, I know that ghost. That ghost, I've heard of him, I've heard of her, I know this story. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed that aspect of this book. But yeah, it's basically about him and this other boy. The first book was, but then also this book, Sam, and stuff's happening to the ghosts and they have to figure out what's happening to the ghosts. So yeah, this carries on with that story. There's very much like a very massive progression of like intensity of stuff that's kicking off, of like danger, of everyone's gonna die, like that sort of vibe. It's very heightened in here, which is good because, you know, it's the next book in the series. Stuff's gonna have to get worse before it gets better. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It was an interesting way to finish the series. I kind of like this a duology as well because why not do it in 2 books? You don't need to carry the series on. But yeah, the way it ended, like stuff happened. It was a lot, but it was very interesting, and yes, very much enjoyed this one. And then last but certainly not least, I read Circe by Madeline Miller. So this is another book that I've had for many, many years. I finally got around to reading it, and I'm so glad I did because it was so good. Like, obviously it was going to be good. I loved The Song for Achilles, so like, you know what I mean. But yeah, this book is just about Cersei. It's about her life. It's just following her. So it's very, very character driven, but I really enjoyed it. It was really interesting. I know bits and bobs about Greek mythology, but I don't know everything. So like a lot of the names that come in, I did know. Not gonna lie, a lot of it was because of Rick Riordan, but like I did know quite a lot of the names that were popping in, so it was interesting. Some of them not so much, but then they'd like mention something about them. I'd be like, oh yeah, I know that person. I just couldn't recognize the name. So yeah, it was interesting in that aspect. But I just really enjoyed being with Cersei as a character. So she's like she's not the youngest, but she's treated like the little peon that nobody wants or cares about. She's thrown on this island, she's exiled, and then she's obviously a goddess, so she's immortal, so life's going on, people turn up at the island, stuff happens, stuff kicks off, things exist. And also she finds out about stuff that's happening outside of the island because Hermes keeps dropping by and like telling her about stuff, and it was just really good. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good story. And yeah, glad I finally got to it. Madeline Miller knows how to do Greek mythology. So there we go. Those were all the books that I read in February. Let me know down below if you've read any of these or what you read in February. What was your favourite book? What was your least favourite book? Say some words down there if you want. That's what it's there for. And then like do the stuff if you want. Like if you want, subscribe if you want, comment if you want, but only if you want. And yeah, I will be back with another video in a few days. So yeah.